Arlong Pirates debuted on OPTC Global during the 5th French anniversary on the 27th of July 2020, bringing along arguably one of the best Sugo-Fests of all time, with amazing step-ups including multiple multis with 11 guaranteed legends with amazing rate boosts for powerful characters at the time. The characters that debuted in this batch include Krieg and Gin, rulers of the East Blue, Kuro and Django, captains of the Black Cat Pirates, and this batch debuted 2 Sugo-Fest exclusive characters. This video will focus on the double character with a captain ability that would grant 3 turns of cooldown reduction and a powerful special that would provide a 2.5 times attack boost. Introducing Arlong Pirates, pirates of the superior race. In this series, we'll be traveling back in time to experience some of the older Sugo-Fest exclusive characters in their prime, aiming to show just what it was like to use these characters on their debut. I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's enter the Legends of OPTC. So thank you very much for checking out yet another episode of the Legends of OPTC. Unfortunately, I actually just straight up forgot to record last week's episode, so I do apologize greatly for that. But we're back this week, and this week we're going to be covering Arlong Pirates. So Arlong Pirates, they came out alongside the Shanks Pirates, so the Redhead Pirates, which we'll be talking about in next week's episode, which I know a lot of people are excited for. So for those of you who don't remember, this batch actually debuted for the French anniversary, the 5th French anniversary in One Piece Treasure Cruise, and this was a pretty big celebration as, you know, obviously Japan and Global were not intertwined at that point, so the Global players had foresight as to what was going to be coming out in the future. When we saw Redhead Pirates and what they were capable of doing on the Japanese version of the game, everyone on Global wanted to get this guy. Everyone was pinpointed on this Sugo-Fest, and they didn't disappoint. Arguably, one of the best Sugo-Fests that ever debuted was this banner right here. The steps were amazing, the character boosts were amazing, and just everyone walked away with a ton of Sugo-Fest exclusives. It was a great celebration what they did for this event. So not only did it introduce 2 new legends, we have a couple of rare recruits to talk about. So let's just start off there. We've got Gin and Krieg. This character saw a ton of play when he first came out, especially for like GARP challenges and stuff. The fact that you could use him on a quick team or a strength team, because this character obviously had both sides of the unit. This character, captain ability doesn't matter, but the special ability, it's a damage dealing special, which is good, so you can have like Sakazuki support to generate strength slots and a strength attack boost, on top of removing 5 turns of paralysis, removing 5 turns of increased defense, become the dual unit for 2 turns, and if enemies have delay debuff protection or all debuff protection when you launch the special, you get a 2 times all boost for 1 turn. So a rare recruit back in this day where you had the ability to grant utility, damage dealing special, and an orb boost with the support of Sakazuki, as I mentioned, to potentially give you attack and orb boost. Well, like just all of these together combined were fantastic. Even the switch effect is not bad. Generating a matching slot and 20% damage reduction, especially, you know, back in the day when defensive focused abilities were definitely more important than what they are now. Gin and Krieg was a very valuable rare recruit to actually have. Unfortunately, Kuro and Django were kind of the opposite of that. A lot of people didn't really care about this guy. This character was Dex and quick focused. Special ability will do damage to all enemies, reducing 5 turns of despair, which is never bad, and then changes recovery, tandem, empty block into matching, and then you get a 1.75 times attack boost against delayed enemies for 2 turns, and then they fuse for 2 turns. They also give you paralysis and bind removal every time you perform their switch ability, but the obvious issue with this character is that he gives you a delayed conditioner boost but doesn't provide the delay. So that was the real downside to this guy. If he delayed on top of granting the conditional boost, I think he probably would have saw a lot more play. But when you compare it to Gin and Krieg, character was definitely used way more. There was also the Buggy Pirates. I believe this was actually a free-to-play unit that came out during the celebration. This character didn't see a ton of play, but has an interesting ability to remove damage nullification by 2 turns, which not a lot of characters remove. Fixed damage to all enemies, would provide the delay, so this is what you would use with Kuro to get that conditional boost. Changes G-Bomb and badly matching into matching, and then you become the dual unit for 3 turns. So yeah, with Buggy, this character saw some niche fringe usage, but not really that crazy. We'll talk about the Redhead Pirates next week, but let's go ahead and cover the Arlong Pirates, because this is pretty much the consolation prize of the Sugo-Fest. Obviously, it's a new unit, a new debuting character you would love to have, but it wasn't the reason you pulled on this Sugo-Fest. So let's break down what this character is doing. So this character is a powerhouse shooter, I believe, in Arlong's form, and then powerhouse slasher when you fuse into the other ones, which is definitely incorrect, I feel. It definitely doesn't really make a lot of sense. Arlong should be the slasher, but I believe, unless if these classes are backwards, I don't really remember them doing that. But this dual unit is actually strength in every single form of the unit, so every time you switch, you're still maintaining the same color. So remember, this character does have, you know, different types of captain abilities because you've got the solo forms and the dual form. Essentially, the cool thing about this guy is the cooldown reduction. 3 turns at the start of the quest is one of the best cooldown reduction captains we've seen. It's very strong. Also reduces your HP by 10% at the end of every turn. And then if you have one of every color on your team, then you get a 3.75 times attack boost. Everyone else gets 3.25. And then if you have the other captain, it makes strength slots beneficial. But in their dual form, it's a 4.25 times attack if you have one of every color on the team. But obviously the downside of having this mass cooldown reduction is that health cut at the end of every single turn. So if you're up against an enemy that does significant damage to you, that's the real downside here. But it's just crazy how we had the debut of Arlong crew and Redhead Pirates at the same time, where you had the Redhead Pirates, which were essentially a full rainbow captain, and then you've got Arlong, which I guess technically are a rainbow captain, but they have a heavy downside requiring you to have one of every type on the crew. Shanks never had that condition, which is crazy to debut these characters together. If Arlong crew didn't have this condition of requiring one of every type, Arlong would have seen a ton more usage in content, that's for damn sure. The switchability wasn't really that great either. Would give themselves a matching slot and boost the base attack of your whole crew based on your current HP for 1 turn. So essentially, if you are at 1 HP, it can give a maximum of 250 base attack. Not a very significant ability. Very, very poor. The special ability, though, also pretty good, actually. It does 250 times their attack in typeless damage to everyone, reduces the special cooldown of all characters by 2 turns, and then becomes Arlong Pirates for 3 turns. Especially good when you counter the fact that they also have the crewmate ability to resist special reverse, so being able to give everyone -2 turns of cooldown with partnership with that crewmate ability is very powerful. And then if you're below 30% HP when you launch the special, everyone gets a 2.5 times attack boost. Otherwise, it's a 2 times attack boost. So it just feels like he just doesn't do enough when you compare it to some of the other characters that debuted alongside him. So very disappointing. It's just in the fact that he debuts alongside Shanks, and it's just like, you know, when you compare the two, this character is just bad and worse in every single way compared to Shanks. But it is what it is. In terms of Rumble, there wasn't really a lot going on with his Rumble kit. He was never really saw a ton of play. If you're below low HP, you just get more damage. Nothing crazy. So today we're going to be covering this guy. Let's go ahead now and jump into the game and build a team to take on some content with the Arlong Pirates. So we are now in game with the Arlong Pirates, and today we're going to be taking on a clash or a raid boss, which is going to be the CP9 boss. So remember with the way that Arlong is kind of designed, where you need to have one of every color on the crew. Now it's kind of interesting because when like dual units were first coming out, we actually didn't have the capability of choosing which part of the dual unit you wanted to start the quest off. So even though in this circumstance here where I've got Treble set up, I have Tashigi set up, normally back when dual units were first coming out, you would actually have to like start off your characters as Smoker or as Doflamingo in this circumstance, and then as soon as you start the adventure, you have to switch into the other side in order to fulfill the actual condition for Arlong's captain ability. It's really strange. I don't know why they didn't just implement that from, you know, the get-go, but hey, it's finally updated now, which is good. So we're going to go ahead and take on the CP9 Clash event with Arlong crew and see how he performs. Now, because of the way that Arlong is designed with all of the cooldown reduction in his captain effect, I'm not expecting to do a lot of stall at all. This should be a pretty swift clear, I think. And that's one of the cool things about Arlong, is getting through content really isn't that, like, fast. It's not that slow, should I say. It doesn't take long to do it. The problem is actually the team building process is the most difficult part about using Arlong, honestly. So, we get given 98 turns of a chain reduction. I'm not too sure how significant that chain reduction is. Let me just pull it up. I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. Let's see here. It doesn't really say. but we'll see as we start attacking. So first thing is first, let's go ahead and just use one of these switch abilities here so we can generate some type of a base attack boost. And look at these cooldowns, like already at the start of the quest, like no issues whatsoever. My Arlongs are level 150, but at 6 star they don't have level limit break, they just have more stats. And also the ship is not level 12, this is base level 10 ability, so you don't have to worry about the ship being too powerful. So because of the way that things are, we can just kind of breeze through this and not really have to stall. Bellamy is also a really good pickup, by the way. Bellamy's he was a really good rare recruit, or should I say raid when he first came out. The fact that he has double special activation is kind of clutch because he has an orb boosting special, so we can use him on multiple turns, which is actually quite good. So we can use the switch ability here of our units to generate matching slots for them, not really having to worry about that. Do any of our units have barrier pierce? Actually, I'm kind of interested to see. Do any of them have barrier pierce? So Tashigi does, so that's good to know. So we can use Tashigi to pierce through the first barrier at least. Although, because it is a good barrier, that's probably not that bad. So what we could do is just attack normally through that, and then we could use Tashigi to kill the guy who has to be hit with 2 perfects. That probably makes a bit more sense. Let's see how we do. Oh my god, I'm stupid. Oh my god, I'm stupid. Okay, I've completely forgot about the tap timing as I was actually doing my attacks. Okay, hopefully nothing bad. Okay, good, nothing bad happens. That's not a problem. So we can just continue on. You know, I meant for that to happen. Alright, so this is not going to be a problem here. Dead, dead, dead. Okay, no problems. Stage number 3 is, what are these guys' names again? Is it Oimo and Kashi or something like that? Something like that. Oimo and Kashi, okay. So these guys, they have around 100,000 HP. So Tashigi's special ability should be kind of clutch here with doing enough damage against them. So let's see how this goes. Tashigi also really powerful special to change those block slots that we get into matching. And they also get locked, so they're going to be good for next turn because we will have a mini boss to deal with in stage 4. So this is going to go boom. These guys have very low HP, but I believe some normal attacks should be enough to get through here. Let's just use the switch ability here of these guys because we just can. And let's see how this goes. Okay. Okay, good. Good. Really close though. Really close. It's weird to have like 100,000 and like 100,000 and like 10 HP or something they had. So here's Roberto Lucius. What's he got for us? He's going to remove our beneficial effects, but we have none. He does have a resilience there, which is really annoying, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and use the special ability of Dofi and Treble. So Dofi Treble are going to be super clutch in this for this stage and the next. Because of the way that they work is they'll give us a chain lock on activation, but if we hit a certain amount of perfects before we move into the next stage, they'll give us another chain lock on the next turn. So let's go ahead and switch our orbs around. We're going to keep our matching slots, of course. Doesn't really matter because we're going to go ahead and use Frankie. So Frankie's going to be clutch because he does remove the resilience for us. So that's going to be pretty good. He also will go ahead and change adjacent slots into tandem, but doesn't really matter at the end of the day either. So Franosuke, this rare recruit really hasn't seen that much play. There hasn't really been much of a use for that Franosuke character. So we'll do that. We still have matching slots, which is good. And then we can use our switch ability with Arlong, because we can. And then we'll go ahead and use the Arlong special. Now, we are definitely below the 30% threshold, meaning that when we go ahead and use his special ability, it's going to provide us with a 2.5 times attack boost for our crew. So very, very good attack boost, especially for when this guy came out. A 2.5 times attack boost was no joke. Like, that's pretty significant. And then, boom, there you go, 2.50. And then we can use Bellamy. Remember, Bellamy does have double special launch, so we can have him for this stage and the next stage. Pretty cool special animation just for a generic free-to-play rare recruit, to be honest. That does a 10% health cut. Technically should have done Bellamy special first and then done Arlong special. Would have given us more overall damage on the unit. But all we need to do now is hit our perfects. How many perfects do we need to hit for Dofi special? You need to hit 4 perfects to get the chain lock in the next turn. Okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, a little bit of a hiccup there, but we still got the 4 perfects, so that's fine. no problems. And then Lucci here, gonna go heal, he's gonna retreat, that's fine, no problems at all. And then we can move on to the final stage, which is up against, whatever his name is, Spandam and some mobs. So it's really not going to be that big of an issue though for this guy, because, you know, normally these mobs are really annoying to deal with at the back, but Arlong's special is just going to wipe the floor with them. And we are inflicted with Bind and Despair on both of our captains, but this is why we have the support effect of the Straw Hat Pirates attached to Frankie, which means that whenever we're inflicted with Bind, Despair, or Paralysis, it's going to trigger, and it's going to remove it. Super, super good support. The only real problem is like, it counts as Luffy, Sanji, Nami, Usopp, like, all together. And, you know, a lot of teams are going to have at least one of those units on it. So you don't get to use that support that often, but it is still a good support attaching to, like, Robin, Chopper, Frankie, you know, very, very good. And Brook as well, I believe. Okay, so with this, let's go ahead and target the Spandam. We'll go ahead and use the Bellamy special because we want to do the health cut first. The 10% health cut that he'll do. And then Arlong special to do the damage to the enemy. So we get the Orb Boost, and we have the Chain Lock as well from the Dofi and Treble free-to-play character that we used in the previous turn. We'll go ahead and switch with Arlong crew. Remember that the lower the HP we have, the more base attack boost we actually receive. So we got a 212 base attack boost. Whoa, watch out. Watch out, man. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and use the special ability of Arlong crew to give us that 2.5 times attack boost and the AoE damage, which should wipe the floor with those surrounding mobs. It does very comfortably. It did nearly 1 million damage. And from here we have the attack boost, we have the orb boost, we have the chain lock. Should be more than enough damage to get through, so here we go. There we go. Easy as that. That's it. That's how you use Arlong crew. Lots of cooldown reduction, pretty decent damage for a character when he first came out. The only issue is that severe condition in that captain effect, having to have one of every type. It was just such a brutal condition. If he didn't have that condition, this guy would have seen a ton more play. Basically like Hody Jones. When Hody Jones got that 6+, he was used a ton for wave clearing mechanics, and he didn't really have an issue. He was just run powerhouse units, basically. I think he boosted shooters as well. Maybe that was with the 6+. But Hody was just like, just use powerhouse units and you're good. Whereas this guy was more just like, you know, you need to have one of every color, which was really, really tricky to abuse, actually. But that is it. That is the breakdown of Arlong crew. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Of course, next week's episode is going to be a ton of fun with the Redhead Pirate, so I really hope you guys are looking forward to that episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the video though, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.